Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I interview a Black woman a day for 29 straight days during Black History Month. And I am super excited to have Erica Loewe, who is the White House Chief of Staff for Public Engagement. She has a really incredible job and an awesome story, and I can't wait for you all to hear. Hey, Erica.
Hey, Laura, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm
It is,
hanging in there.
it is hard to get you on the phone, girl. Okay.
I appreciate your persistence and your patience.
No worries. I am persistent. That is one of my many traits because I did want to have you share your story. So, as I mentioned, the first question is always the same. Answers are always highly entertaining. I'm sure yours would be no different. So, Erica, what was your first job?
My first job. Well, I was an after-school counselor in high school, and I would basically monitor students that could vary from like kindergartners to eighth graders, essentially on the playground and doing after school activities. It was something. It was quite a time.
I'm guessing there were a lot of stories of how that foolishness went down.
Indeed. And I think the jobs that follow, I worked at Foot Locker and I learned how to speak shoe Spanish. I tell people that all the time, compré uno y segundo a mitad de precio, buy one, get one half off. And then I came to DC and then had some interesting first jobs here as well.
Shoe Spanish. Okay.
Yes.
That is definitely a first. By far a first. Wow.
So that was a lot of my high school experience.
That's pretty amazing. Okay. So we go from Foot Locker where you learned how to speak shoe Spanish till
Yes.
now. What's that career journey been like?
It has been very interesting. After Foot Locker, I went to college and then I went to University of Florida, Go Gators, and I worked for the university president, Dr. Bernie Matchin, and I stayed a year after I graduated and worked with him. And then I came to DC and I got a clerkship at a government relations firm that was representing University of Florida at the time, which was amazing. And that led to a White House internship during the Obama Biden administration. And which is now life has come full circle because now I'm back in the Biden Harris administration. And I guess that's what, 12, 13 years later. So it has been quite a time. And then there was a lot of fun in between. I worked in the private sector for a little bit. I worked on the Hill for Maxine Waters, Auntie Maxine, and Jim Clyburn, who they called the Kingmaker. And, it's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of great experiences. None of them planned at all, but all of them I'm very grateful for.
Well, it's always about the gratitude for me in terms of what you have, the things that you end up having to do on a day-to-day basis because of the experiences you get to participate in. And obviously working in DC, I'm sure you see a lot of interesting things. Obviously you work in the White House now. And what does a chief of staff of public engagement do?
So the chief of staff from public engagement, I tell people I do whatever I'm told, but no, I do the role of the Office of Public Engagement is to be the front door of the White House. So, it's our job to make sure that we kick the doors as wide open as possible to the American public, no matter who you are, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter how you identify. There are a number of portfolios that my office focuses on. There's Black engagement, Latino engagement, LGBTQ plus, faith, Muslim, Jewish, you name it. It kind of comes through my office, and we just make sure that all communities, particularly the underserved communities, have direct access to senior White House officials, to have direct access to the work, the travel, the conversations that the president is having. And we make sure that every room that the president and vice president are in reflects the diversity of this nation.
That's pretty amazing. Like,
Thank you.
I think for a lot of folks, sometimes you're like, oh, it's politics and it's a black hole and you can't figure out what's going on. But your job is to keep those doors open.
Yeah,
and engage with all kinds of interesting people on a daily basis. So I'm sure you run into 11,000 different people on a daily basis, right?
indeed, I do.
So as you've been navigating the world of DC, talk to me about a time you had a challenge where you're like, there's no way I'm gonna get through this. And then you did.
Oh man, every day. But it's funny because I talk to people, particularly, younger Black girls all the time. And, I think a lot of these recent graduates who have come to the White House, or they come into the political space, and they have these problems that just seem monumental to them. It's like the world is over. And it's funny to me. And, they're in tears. And I don't mean to be insensitive and to laugh, but it's like, dear, it's going to be okay. I'm telling you this because I know. And I think about one year in particular. 2017 was the most pivotal year of my life, because I was working at this private sector firm that, when I started, it was kind of the top of the food chain. And then, as often happens in DC, there was a shift in political parties that were in power. And oftentimes that has a great impact on K Street. And in my case, it had a tremendous impact on the firm I was working at. And the firm basically shuttered its doors within like 5 days of letting us know. And then around that same time that I had lost my job without a prospect in sight, I was engaged and I broke up with him too. So
Oh,
I,
damn.
it was quite a time in the life of Erica Loewe, and it did not seem that there was much to look forward to. And then on top of that, my mom, who had Alzheimer's, had just moved. I just moved her to DC from Florida. So I had recently become a caregiver. I had recently lost my job. I was no longer engaged. And, that was it. Life had to be over by then, right? But that wasn't the case at all. And, I look back to those times and I'm so grateful for those experiences, because it made me stronger. It made me better. Had I not been booted out of that job, I might still be there, and I might not have had the courage to look for another one, and to grow professionally, because I was comfortable. The engagement, I'll just leave it at that. It was time. And
Understood. Look,
it was
we have
time.
all been those places where like, why am I still here? I'm out.
Yeah. And as it pertains to my mom, she's doing well. We're fine. I appreciate the opportunity to give back to someone who, was my caregiver for all of my life. So we're good over here. But at the time, I didn't see it that way. So I tell young girls now that it's going to be okay. As cliche as that sounds, I promise you it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I think sometimes, especially with younger generations, they think if everything is not solved by the age of 24, life is over.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, no, that's not the
No,
case. You'll be
no,
okay.
no. And there have been so many other instances that were like that. I mean, that's the one that's kind of top of mind, because that one happened so quickly. But there are just so many moments where it's like, wow, how am I going to get out of this pickle? And you just always do. And so I don't worry about it anymore. Like, yes, it's stressful in the moment. It's not enjoyable, but I don't worry about the light at the end of the tunnel. Some tunnels are just a little longer to navigate than others, but I know that I will come out of each one hopefully unscathed.
Hopefully. And even if you get saved, you get a little singed, it's okay. It builds character.
Yeah.
You'll find your way through it. And obviously we all have these journeys that allow us to go in a myriad of directions, but they're all taking us on our own incredible journey that's never a straight path. No one has a straight path. Anyone who tells you they do, lying. It's like fully lying. And it allows us the flexibility, especially as Black women in business, to like, I might move zig here, then zag there, but the key is to kind of just keep on going.
Agree. Absolutely. Keep swimming. Isn't that what Nemo said? I think that was Nemo.
I feel like that might have been, I really do feel that that it's Nemo. And, obviously, I always do these during Black History Month, and it is always delightful for me to find new and interesting people. So, for you, what's Black History Month like in DC?
It is eventful. Everyone, every corporation and political entity has a Black history something. And the very small but mighty Black community in DC attends them all. So I'll say here at the White House, it has been incredibly busy. We have had back-to-back Black History Month events. We will continue to have them until the end of Black History Month, and it might trickle into March and Women's History Month because we're having so much fun. But President Biden had a reception on the 6th with the First Lady and the Vice President and the Second Gentleman. It was a lot of fun. We had a number of just stakeholders and everyday people from across the country. Grammy Award winning artist Tank was the performer.
Okay.
It was a time. And then, it didn't stop after that. In our office, in the Office of Public Engagement, we have a Black engagement director, Fabian Solomon, and she has kept the Black History Month celebration train going. The national theme this year is African Americans in the Arts. So we tried to make sure to incorporate that in a variety of ways. That included children painting at the White House and, celebrating Black art. That has included an HBCU day that we have coming up with a number of influencers that are HBCU graduates. At the end of the week, we had young entrepreneurs here today. We had folks that are Black and in the labor community on campus here today. I mean, so many things have happened. On Friday, we had Black men. It was Black men entrepreneurs and leaders that were on campus talking about their journeys, and there were young Black men and students and fraternities and all sorts of folks crowded in these very tight rooms that we have here in the White House. But they were happy to be here. We were happy to have them here, and we've had some really spirited conversations. Oh, and my favorite event was we had the descendants of civil rights icons here, and the vice president kind of spearheaded that event. And it was the descendants of, anyone from Malcolm X to Emmett Till to even Sally Hemings.
Wow.
So it was quite a time. There was a lot of press coverage around that. So I would encourage folks to take a look. The vice president gave some really inspirational and celebratory remarks. So, we've been rocking and rolling over here. So that's what Black History Month looks like at the White House, at least.
Awesome. That's so what you're saying is that you've not been busy at all. You've just been chilling.
We have a lot of help.
Well, it takes a village, as they say. But looking back on all the really awesome and cool things that you've done, what do you think you'd probably tell 18-year-old Erica?
Oh, it's going to be okay. 18-year-old Erica had so much anxiety. And to be fair, 30-something-year-old Erica also has a lot of anxiety. But 18-year-old Erica had a lot of uneducated and uninformed anxiety. And, and I noticed that that's the case with, these kids today, these college students are faced with so much more than I think my generation was. And I never thought I would sound like the old lady I sound like right now. But
don't worry, I'm a little bit older than you, and I feel almost like so much. What? No, I was in high school 20 years ago.
Yeah. But it's true. We didn't have the social media, the various social media platforms that these kids. It's just constant, just overstimulation. And then on top of that, the conversations that are had and the issues that they're faced with, and it's just a lot more seems to be facing them than I recall my peers and I had to deal with when I was in college. So I still believe that my advice is relevant here. But to an extent, I don't always fully understand, what it is that they're going through, because I didn't necessarily go through it. But I will say that for the most part, it will be okay. Like, I can't speak to the issues of the world. I can't speak to all the crazy stuff that they see on social media, but I can speak to, if you keep your head on straight and, you stay focused and you try to be the best person you can be, 9 times out of 10, it will be okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what okay looks like can be different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. But if you just keep swimming, you will eventually, make your way to the sunlight.
yeah, Nemo was right. Just keep swimming. You'll be okay. Um,
Yeah.
and thinking about being okay, how does Erica be okay? What do you do for your self-care?
Oh man. It's like a trick question.
Kind of.
What do I do for my self-care? I really like to read. And I try to, and this job involves a lot of reading. So I try to read fiction and get lost in, worlds that have nothing to do with the one in which I currently exist. So that's a lot of fun. I love an occasional spa day with friends. I'm a Florida girl, so it's a little cold for me right now, but when it gets warm, I imagine I'll venture back outside and I like to take walks, super long walks. So that's about it. I mean, am I taking care of myself as best I can? No. And I, I try to be very honest about that because I think that oftentimes women make it look easy, especially in this social media world where it's like, oh, your life is just great and you look great and it's like you don't have a care in the world. And it's like just because I post one picture a month, you did not see what happened
All the other things they days.
the 30 days in between. So I think that's really important. And then there are women who, it's like, oh, of course you can have it all. You can have the family. You can work 24/7. You can work out and do all those things. I don't believe that's true either. Maybe it has worked for other people. It hasn't worked for me. I spend a lot of time at work. I spend a lot of time, doing other family related things. And oftentimes, Erica care does fall to the wayside. Now, I am working on that because I know that you can't pour from an empty cup. But I think it's important to be transparent about that because oftentimes you get lost in the fantasy of what you see as opposed to what's reality.
Amen with put sugar on top. Um, because and I think the sort of perfectification is what I probably would call it of Instagram life just messes with people. There are so many influencers who like seem to have it all and everything is perfect in their life, and it does a disservice at a point because it makes people feel like if you don't have it all, then oh my gosh, you're a failure. And you're like, yeah, no, like that person might be married to a billionaire, so of course they can do all this stuff and post all these photos every day. Like, that's why they don't have a care in the world. And being honest about like, yeah, I'm not doing that, or I'm just, yeah, not really feeling this awesome right now. So I'll be under the covers for like a couple of weeks. See ya. Like that's okay. And I think we have to, the more that we folks are honest about the fact that like I would love to be doing better at self-care. Look, I host this podcast, I have my day job, and I ask this question every single episode during 29 Days of Magic. Is Laura's self-care awesome? It's cool. I was on fake vacation last week. As as I was on vacation, but where was I? Still in New York. Did I go anywhere? No. Did I
And
answer my phone?
I think you were emailing last week.
Yes, I was on email
Yeah.
because my plan did not work out. And the problem is, if you're in New York, that means everyone knows you're on the same time zone. Like, Laura, hey, question for you. I'm like, okay. And I didn't know how to shut off. I literally could not shut off. I was just like, well, I'll just stick right in. So
I understand.
look, we're not, it is what it is. But
Boundaries are important. I haven't figured out how to set them.
yeah, they're there for a reason to be set, but like we'll get there eventually. Like, what books are you reading? So like, what kind of fiction are you reading these days?
So I just finished Black Cake and Hulu made a series out of it. So that's my favorite thing when I read a book or I'm in the process of reading a book and then there's a series that's made out of it. It's so much fun to compare the two. And usually the book is always better. So that was a lot of fun. I love Reese Witherspoon's book list. Like I trust her with my book selection. So oftentimes I will pick a book from the Reese Witherspoon collection. But Black Cake was definitely a fun one to read recently.
Did you watch the series?
I did. It was great. I had so
Oh,
much fun. I was so sad when it ended.
oh my gosh. I was like, is there gonna be a season two? Like, because
Yeah, it's like, no, I think it's over,
no.
but it was a good time.
Yeah. Although I still have so many questions, like, is she gonna find the father?
Right. So, and I think I've never actually read The Color Purple. I've only seen the movies, so I think I might actually read the book.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, I've now seen all the versions of Color Purple except for reading the book. I've seen it on
Yeah,
Broadway.
same.
I've seen the original. Of course, Fantasia and Daniel Brooks like deserve all the things because that music, oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah. So I think that might be next on my list.
All right, go for it. Read, and more read. Whatever we can do for Erica time, we got to do.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm finding that I gravitate towards books about women who overcome something. So I don't know, there might be a theme there somewhere, but I do love a book about an underdog who comes out on top.
Same. It's kind of like why it's weird. It's kind of why I like to watch the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Because like the underdog ends up winning in the end, and because it just feels like it's comforting to know that like yeah, you have all these challenges, and at the end of the day you still win. So it's another reminder of like just to keep swimming, even when I'm watching stuff on TV or reading a book.
Yeah. Agreed.
Awesome. So, last question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
A give or an ask of the audience. Well, I would ask the audience to make sure that you are informed about what is happening in the world and what is happening as it pertains to our nation's leaders. Make sure that you are reading accurate information and not information that is being, not misinformation or disinformation. And I would encourage everyone to, exercise their right to vote. And I'll leave it at that because the Hatch Act is real and I don't want to get in trouble.
Yep, everybody vote. Everyone do your research. Amen. Can't go wrong with that. That's really important for everybody to be doing, especially this year. Just be informed, folks. Well, Erica, you have been a delight. I think, I learned so much about sneaker Spanish and so much more from you.
That's about the extent of my Spanish. Don't let the shoe talk fool you.
Oh wait, I was listening to half my team who speaks fluent Spanish and like, let's see what happens. But you've just been a delight, and obviously, again, just super inspiring to hear what you're doing and how you're doing it with such grace. Because you don't have an easy job. I really appreciate you making the time to share and being a part of 29 Days of Magic.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you highlighting the magical people during Black History Month.
Awesome, cool. And that is our show.